The first thing is just this, is I really do believe that everything we do and the decisions we make come from a core belief on the inside of us. I really believe that. And so because it's a core belief on the inside of us, it shows up and it trickles out and it becomes the fruit of the leadership decisions that we make often. And so the most critical thing I think most pastors, leaders can do is deal with the core, what's in us. Because if the core belief in us is rooted in insecurity, then it's going to come into, what do I have to do to prove more to be able to feel successful to the outside world, you know? And so the core belief of what I felt whenever I was prayerful and met you in the foyer and was like, okay, wait, I've met someone that I think can help us have a system to put together that no matter how big the church gets, it feels like a small local church. It feels like just, hey, we all know each other, love each other, all of that. How do we do that when there's thousands and thousands and campuses and all that? Is it possible? I'm like, well, the true answer is I don't know, but I'm going to try to make sure we make it possible. That was the true answer. But the core belief on the inside of me is, at this point, I've seen too many things come and go. I've seen too many things blow up and it become the national this and that, and let's repost the pastor saying all these things just to fall apart. You see enough of that happen, that what's deep in my heart is I know I don't want fruit, and I don't want much fruit. I want, the Bible says, I want much fruit that remains. And so because that's deep in the core of my being, it's like, okay, what do we do that's going to outlast me? What can we do that outlasts me? That's more than just me. And that's two parts to that, not just legacy, like in years to come to give to the younger generation, but does it outlast me when you have a staff of 25, 50, 75, 180? And it's like, okay, so now it outlasts me. And now that's actually on the inside of them. So how does that work? Because I want this to last. I want it to go on and on and on and on and on. We serve a generational God, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I don't know which one I am. I don't know if I'm Abraham, I don't know if I'm Isaac, I don't know if I'm Jacob when it comes to all this, okay? But it doesn't matter. Whichever one I am, I want to pass it on to the next one well. And so because that's deep on the inside of me, I believe slow is fast. Slow is fast. Slow is fast.
We're here with Pastor Jason Robinson, who is a friend to us and a partner. He's an incredible leader, and we've had the honor of following and being alongside with Southstone Church in Katy, Texas, from a point in time where I think, Pastor Jason, you guys had just crested 1,000 people coming to your church when we met you.
Yes, ma'am.
And God has just done so many amazing things over the past several years. And how many people on average are you guys seeing right now?
Man, well, we are pretty capped out because we have only 400 seats in our sanctuary. So we'll have anywhere between 26 to 3,200, something like that, depending on what type of the season it is. Bunch of overflow rooms and a bunch of desperately needing a next step that has eluded us badly. But it's okay. It's all good. God knows.
God knows. And honestly, that's kind of what we want to talk to you about. Is you have many times in your leadership journey, 15 years in ministry before you came to Katy and launched your own church, where you have had to steward growth, and you have we've admired the way that you've approached that. You have not moved at a pace that was faster than you thought was healthy for your organization. And so we really thought it would be awesome if you could just talk to us about what you've learned about managing change, managing growth, stewarding the people that you lead, the congregation that you shepherd, and what it's like for you. And you're not done. You are in the middle of, determining your next steps as an organization. It seems like this is a process that never ends in life. And so we really we thought, could we spend time with you talking about where you've been, what you've learned, and where you're going next, and just how you are trying to do that in a healthy manner. So thank you for your time.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank y'all so much. And it really is awesome to be on here with y'all. An honor to be here with you, part of the journey. Y'all didn't ask me to say this, but yeah, we had We moved here. I'm from the New Orleans area. Moved here, planted Southstone Church, and was in a school just like most people start for a couple years, and then we found property. Then we started raising money, all the things you have to do, working with the bank, architects, all that stuff, and then started building, broke ground, and then COVID hit. So we built our building during COVID, not with no church services, wondering how it's going to turn out. And so December 5th, 2020, we opened up the doors and didn't know if anybody was going to come. Didn't care. We were like, we're building this building and we're having a service. I mean, a bank might take it the next week, but we're having a service in this building, which obviously that didn't happen. But we ended up just started to really grow, take off the next week. And I began to pray and say, Lord, I fought hard to keep this sense of spiritual family, this small, we're in a big area, big town, but get that small church feel, you know? And so kind of went countercultural to the way church was taught in a lot of ways. Like, you know, don't be too accessible. Make sure you have all these layers underneath you, and just, you know, hey, they don't PR this, corporate that. And we really kind of went the opposite direction. No matter how much we kept growing, we just went all in on just like the one. Anybody can get in touch. I mean, we're just, and some people may not like all that, and that's fine. That's not their flow, but it is mine. I really come from a small town. So I'm a small town guy in a big city now. And so I just love people where they are. And so we just started doing that. But there's like, how do we do this? You could start to see the trajectory where this was going. And I had been part of Explosive Church, where I was on staff at churches that exploded. So I kind of saw what was coming. And I began to pray, God, what do we do? How do we do this? And God, send us somebody, bring us somebody that we can do this. And then I got a phone call from my friend Danny. And he said, hey, there's someone coming. I want you to say hello. And I met Christy in the foyer of one of our services. We start talking, and I start hearing what she did. And I was like, God sent you here. I need to talk to you. And so it began the journey with Focus 412. And that journey was something that really helped. That how do we keep who we are, but start to scale it? And for the first time, I began to see, we can do this. We can actually do this. And so it's not easy. It's hard. It takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of intentionality, and it takes consistent, just boom, just don't stop. Consistent. And, but you do that. And so far we're off to a good start.
That's awesome. Pastor Jay, we've known each other for, I don't know, a lifetime. And you were in youth ministry. I was in kids ministry. I've always looked up to you. You've always been about 12 steps ahead of me. So it's been fun to learn along the way. And now you're senior pastor, experiencing all this tremendous growth. Seems like you're having the time of your life, not just a parent, but a grandparent now. And life is moving forward. But we all know as things change and grow around us, oftentimes there's growth that happens in us. And I would love to hear at this stage and point in your life, like, what is God doing in you, and what growth is happening inside, not just on the outside?
That's good. What a great question. So I think there's multiple things. I think for any senior pastor listen to this, or any pastor listen to this, executive pastor, whatever it may be, cultivating your time with the Lord is paramount. It's paramount. It's paramount to all things. And it's not to get a message, and it's not so that Jesus is my vehicle to earthly success either. It's like, God, like the cry of my heart at the end of the day. I think I've been able to narrow it down. I've thought a lot about this and narrow it down. It's like, make it real simple. I want to be a man God trusts. And I think that's kind of like that. I just want to be a man God trusts. That he trusts me with my wife, trusts me with my kids, trust me with this church, trust me with the finances that come in, trust me with blessing, trust me with challenge, trust me with different levels of leaders. I'm praying that leaders from every sphere of society come through this church. And guess what? It's hard to lead those type of people. But Lord, that you would trust me with that. And I think one of the things that he reminds me of consistently is that it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by his spirit, says the Lord. I think about when Paul said to Galatians, oh, foolish Galatians, are you going to try to finish in the flesh now what was begun in the spirit? And so there's a leadership side to things. But there's the touch of God that, guess what, can supersede everything. And so I want to be someone, my character, my thought life, all that with people, staff, and because sometimes the worst disciple people in a church are the staff, because we pay them, right? And so no, I want to be trustworthy with all of it, that God can trust me with it, and realize that it's his power, man. It's his power. It's not our intellect and how smart we are. Now we learn, we grow, all those things, but that, and I think another principle that has guided me a lot is the wine and wineskins. I go back that to a lot. Usually what's going on, what the problem is, it's usually a wineskin issue or wine issue. Wine represents the presence of God, the anointing of God, the power of God. You can have everything lined up. You can have this thing down to a T, but there's no life in it because there's no wine, there's no joy, there's no spirit, but then you can have the power of God showing up, but you just can't get over some humps. Your wineskin probably needs to expand, and you need to learn some things, and you need to grow. So I just gave you about 4 things. But that's probably it.
I love it.
That's gold. Absolute gold.
Yeah.
I love everything you're saying, and I want to, from a practical standpoint, because your life is full, and you got you have a wonderful wife who I love, and you have 4 kids who have all gone through major milestones, graduating high school, graduating college, starting careers, to got married, you got a grandchild, and you're leading a church. And, people who are gifted and naturally strong, have a lot of energy, can see vision. There can be this temptation and this challenge of managing the tension between taking responsibility for what God wants you to do and taking control. And taking it out of God's hands and calling it responsibility. How do you practically in your life stay healthy with all the things you have going on? Because you could, with everything and most people who lead a church could spend every moment of every day tinkering, manipulating, working on, trying to change, trying to press forward things that they feel a sense of urgency to address. So what are some practical things you're doing in your life that are kind of helping you try to maintain those things in balance? And none of us is perfect. We know that, but what are the things that help you with that?
Great questions. So I don't mean to keep going back to this one thing, but I do go back to, like, everything is rooted in a belief system that's deep on the inside of us. And you got to remind yourself of that, because the urgency always is screaming at you. I mean, I live my life with 25 people I needed to get with yesterday. That's basically how I live my life, and then 10 more are going to get added to that today, but then I'm going to catch up on a few, and that's how I live my life. And so I would say the first belief is this: it truly is that Jesus is the great, he is the great shepherd. I'm an under shepherd. This is his church. It's not my church. It's his dream, not my dream. That's his dream. I'm stewarding his dream. I'm stewarding what he wants to do in the earth. Jason gonna come and Jason gonna go, but his church is gonna remain, and Jesus is gonna remain. And so I just want to be faithful with my lap that I have for him. So I think it first starts with just a belief in that, because there's things that we steward and things that you carry. And sometimes we're carrying the responsibility of the way things are supposed to be, as opposed to the stewardship of what God's just put in front of us, And part of what the stewardship is myself. I need to expand. I need to grow. I need to think better, but I need to walk with the Lord and make sure I'm whole and I'm healed. So I'm not the leadership. Once it gets to the leadership tangibles of the practicals every day, it doesn't turn into some insecure, hot mess, chasing numbers so that I feel identity affirmation, right? So there's that. And I think part of what you do is you got to know yourself. Talking practically now about how do you do all things, you got to know yourself. Some people are just Clydesdales, man. They just pull and go and go and go. And it's like, I don't know how they do it. Some are thoroughbreds where they just zoom, and then they got to breathe a little bit, and then zoom, and then breathe a little bit, and zoom. And I'm probably more that guy, than anything else. And so I'm big on energy management throughout the week. I schedule everything off of my energy management. Where am I at my best? I'll plug in the most important things during those moments. And then when it's time to rest, because sometimes I've said this to somebody, I said, it's not that I have it. Hey, do you have time? Well, I might actually have time in my schedule. but I don't have the energy to manage
Mm.
that during that time. And so every senior leader knows what I'm talking about for sure with this, where it's like, hey, so you don't have anything plugged in for this hour and a half. And you're like, and do not put anything in that because I don't have it in me to manage that right now. It's emotional management, not just, time management. So that helps me a lot. So I have rhythms throughout my week where I know when to rest, when to chill, when to not think about things. But I've also gotten a little bit more organized because the more organized I get, I'm like, I actually schedule when to think about things. Because if I schedule when to think about things, then I have the freedom to release myself of thinking about it now. Because what most people have is they think about everything all day long. It's like, okay, I'm going to think about this here, and I'm going to think about this here, and I'm going to think about this here, and that gives me freedom to not worry about it. Oh, I'm going to think about that Thursday at 10.
Right.
So that's been helpful to me as well. I don't know if that answered the question, but
That did. Sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes
some
when I
practical
haven't
stuff.
allocated time to think, it might be 3 a.m. that I start thinking about.
Well, what ends up happening is it never goes away.
Right.
It's an open app, like in your phone. It's an open app that just stays there. And so when you're able to take it and put it in a file, and listen, I'm not that organized. Oh my, ask Renee who's on your team. You ask her. She worked for me for a little while. You ask her. It's like, and because I'm not. Well, you get to a place of leading, and if you want to steward well, you can't just say, "Ha ha ha, I'm not organized." It's like, well, get it, because you're stewarding a lot, and you want God to give you more. And so, guess what? I don't. But if you meet any of my team, you want to talk about a bunch of organized executors. You want to know why? Because I'm not.
That's right.
Because I'm not. And I need all y'all to slightly frustrate me to keep me in line so that I can be most effective and so I can do what God's called me to do.
That's great. Yeah, I saw that live and in person, and I think it's great that you have that self-awareness and that you shared it with your team. Because you would say, even sometimes, these things are not natural to me, but I'm committed to them because I know that they're important. And so I think that willingness to examine yourself and where you need people to complement your strengths and sharing with them how you all fit together to make a greater whole than the sum of your parts was really fun to watch.
And why is that? Why is that, Christy? It's because I want to be a man God can trust with anything.
That's
so
good.
therefore, because I want to be a man God can trust with anything, I tell them, this is where I'm not good at. And I empower y'all to please hold me accountable in these areas because I don't want to get to heaven. And God said, at one point, Jason, I just had to do this.
Yeah.
Because you weren't going to steward it well. And when you don't steward it well, you hurt God's people. And I don't want to hurt God's people. So
that's good. And that includes your family.
Oh yeah.
And
I got
Jeremy,
an
I know
interesting
we'll
story
move
for
on.
you, Christy. I got it in Jeremy. When I went to start this church, this will help answer some of the things we're talking about too. When I went to start this church, I went on a little road trip and I started meeting pastors who had started the churches in the last 5 years. Oh, we did this and you're going to need that. And it was really helpful for a lot of things. I don't want to exaggerate. I would say no less than 10 of them told me, hey, just go ahead and tell your kids you're not going to be around much for the first 2 years.
Ouch.
You probably just need to tell them that, because that's what it costs to get it going. And before God, I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not, I promise. But I was literally like, if that's what it takes, then it'll just take longer. It's just going to take longer because I am not sacrificing my kids. And let me tell you, now that I'm on the other side of my youngest is graduating and going off to college in a couple weeks, I'm not telling you where she's going, but she's going somewhere. It's good. It's a inside joke. If she watches this, she'll laugh at me. So anyway, is like the reward. I'm telling you, hear me, pastor with young kids. Hear me. Your reward is going to be your family. Your word's going to be the family. Those people in that church, they love you, but they can leave you. And some will, but the reward's going to be those kids. I'm telling you, when you're sitting around in the room and and they're all talking, and they love God, they love each other, they love you, and they love the house of God. Game, set, match.
Yeah.
If I don't accomplish anything else, I did we did pretty good. Stephanie and I did okay. And so that's what matters. And so that's the story I wanted to share. Like, it's just going to take longer. And maybe it did.
Yeah.
It might have taken longer because of that. But that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Pastor Jay, you're always one of my favorite storytellers. Not one of. You are my favorite storyteller.
Thank you.
Anytime I'm watching you online, anyway, some of the stories you've told stuck in my brain like for years. And so anyway, I don't know if a story comes to mind on this, but I really want to dive in again. And you're always quick and witty and on the spot. So you're the best. You're so easy to ask questions to. Okay. So obviously the family you started with is not the family you have today. The church you started with is not the church you have today. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's happening regardless. But what are some things that you're unwilling to change and compromise in the midst of growth and change?
Great question. Great question. I am not willing to sacrifice my relationship with the Lord. I'm not willing to do it. I'm not willing to sacrifice my relationship with my wife. I believe one of the greatest gifts I can leave on this planet Earth is the way I love my wife. I think the best thing I could do for this church is the way I love my wife. I think the best thing I could show my kids is the way I love my wife. And I think one of the greatest things I think I'll leave will be the way I did my best to love Stephanie. I will not sacrifice family on the altar of ministry, but I will not hide behind my kids and say no to things I'm responsible for in the church. I think there's a balance between the two. I will stand before Jesus one day. I will not stand before a board. I will not stand before our people. And as much as I love my family, I won't stand before them. I will stand before Jesus one day. And so any decision that I make, I pray that I could stand before Jesus and look at Jesus in the face and said, I did the best with what I had in that moment. I thought that's what you would have wanted me to do, Jesus. And so I'm not willing to fudge on any of that. That is, I will go down on the ship. I'll go down with the ship on preaching the word of God and what the word of God says. Culture has shifted. It's shifted back a little bit, which we're grateful for. But it's going to shift again, and it's going to get crazier. When the world acts like the world, don't get mad at the world acting like the world. That's what they do. And we're going to stand on God's truth. And I have had people leave this church because I stood on the truth. A couple of weeks ago, I was preaching something. A couple people got up and walked out. And not even cultural, just, from biblical. I wasn't none of that kind of stuff. And so I'll always stand upon the word with that. And I'll always err on the side of loving them, being gracious, and being generous. I'm always going to err on that side. Like, I think if you love them, love people, you're gracious with them, because everybody's walking through stuff, man. Staff people, staff wives, all this stuff. People going through stuff, man. And you reap what you sow. And when I'm going through hard things, I'm really hopeful people are gracious with me and love me. And so, you know what? I'm going to sow that in some others. So, and then generous. Anytime something doesn't work out with a staff person or whatever, I'm going to be generous. Anytime people need something, be generous, and generosity isn't about the money that's in the bank. It's about what's in your heart. And what does generosity look for you, And generosity is not something that you do. It's something that you are. And so, anyway, which that brings up a whole nother subject, but anyway, yeah. So I think that's some of the things I will not compromise. I'll go down with the ship on those.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
So good.
When we were going through the essentials process, you did something that was pretty unique, which was you invited your entire staff into the room as we went through leadership principles. And you said, I want everybody to grow in this process. I want them to understand. I want them to feel like this is a part of something that they help build, and I appreciated that. And a lot of places we go, we encounter people who have a vision in their heart for what they're going to do one day in ministry, whether it's a position or planning a church, or they've got the future in mind, but they are still very early in their career, or maybe they have some steps and some stages they need to go through to grow and to develop into the person that can steward that vision in the future. And as somebody who I've seen invest in their own team so intentionally, what kind of advice do you have for somebody who they're in an early stage, or maybe they're waiting to see how God's going to bring them from where they are to where they're going to be one day? What can they be doing right now to prepare for what God has for them in the future?
Well, let me say this one drive-by thing real quick. I have had the pleasure of being in the room of a lot of conversations. I probably should have never been in the room. Not shouldn't be like something's wrong, but like doesn't really like, and it shaped the way I thought all throughout the years. And so I just have the idea, I want them in the room. You don't learn anything like you did. Like when you're in the room, you get the why behind the what. And when you get the why behind the what, then when it gets to the what, you're driven and passionate and fired up about it. Cause you're like, well, why are you trying to get this across the finish line? Because you don't know why. You need to know why. And so I want them to be in the room, which costs us money, right? Costs money and time and all that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I want them in the room because you know why? Because that thing will carry on for a long time from here. As far as anyone that wants to progress and they feeling called or feeling like another way, crush it where you are. Crush it where you are. It's the best thing I can always say. If you don't crush it where you are, there is no next step. Mm-hmm. There is no next step. You can, then you have to go outside of the organization and try to sell somebody else on something because you did not prove where you were that you can crush it where you are. And so that's the best thing that I can say. If you're not faithful where you are, there is no next step for you. There really isn't. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you in that and just do it with a good attitude. You don't go into meetings. You don't go into meetings with supervisors and ask what they do to get things off your plate. You look at them and you ask them often this: hey, is there anything I can do better? Is there anything you see? Is there anything that you're like, man, I wish he was a little bit more? Be easy to coach. Mm-hmm. If you're prickly and now you have to have a follow-up meeting because your feelings are hurt and all that, you need to get unprickly. Because what will happen is leaders will start to go around you because they think about the emotional investment of what it's going to take to walk you through the thing that hurt you, that once again, something else. And I thought when you said that, were you actually meaning all that stuff? I'm like, oh, you're too much work. You're too much work, you know.
Gotta worry about your feelings.
That's right. And I'll tell you what ends up getting to a place. You got to be careful. Is you have to be careful because it'll become a tension point in the organization, in the church staff or whatever. Because I cannot say this church can only grow to the level of of how you get offended easily, or this church can only grow to the level of your insecurity. Or this church can only grow to the level of that because now we're adjusting our organizational charts and adjusting our decisions because we're factoring in you getting emotional. And I'm like, we don't roll like that. We don't roll like that. It's like, so we're not going to build a structure that's built around your insecurity. You either deal with we got to deal with your insecurity that's in your soul and all that, and then we'll be able to move forward. But to go back, sorry, I can get long-winded with this stuff. Just so much comes in my mind.
Oh, man. I'm just like, this is so much better. This is so much better than anything.
And so I would just say, crush it where you are. Deal with your insecurities. Get over yourself. Be coachable. The best way to be coachable is not wait for someone to coach you. You go there with questions and you're like, so what about this? How about this? How do I do better on this and this? And here's if you're talking to a leader, they're going to have an idea for you. So don't go in and say, what can I do better? Then they say, well, you could do this better. Well, what are you saying? What are you saying? It's like you become you prickly, too much work. If you don't want an answer, don't ask. All right. So, but be coachable, and get your identity out of what you do. If you get your identity out of what you do, then it no longer you don't have to have the greatest ideas anymore. You don't have to be perfect anymore. Who has the best ideas are all the people. You know why they all got in the room, Christy? Because I know I don't have the best ideas. I have a lot of ideas and I have a perspective nobody else says, so I can veto an idea because I see things because of the seat I'm in. Not everybody else sees. That's fine. That's fine. But some of the best ideas we have are not mine. And if they have to be yours, then man, So we want to get all that insecurity out, get all that out, plant your feet, build, grow, and let God use you, and let God get all that stuff out of you that he's still trying to get out of all of us.
Amen.
Let's go. Pastor Jay with all the gold.
I don't know about all that. Listen, come on, Jeremy, getting flashbacks, man of God, from our times back in the day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Jeremy, get your audio's low. Can you get closer?
Yep. How about now? Can you hear me now?
You're the same level from my end, but I don't know, let y'all do all that.
All right,
well,
go.
Pastor Jay, you've always been relational and impacted so many people, but I'd love to hear from you. Who is someone that's played a pivotal role in your life as you've grown as a leader, and maybe something practical they did to help you grow?
Mm-hmm. Great question. I would say there's many people that I could give some major kudos to, and so I'll throw a couple out. Of course, my dad. My dad was a man of convictions. He's still a man of convictions. The stories that I have of my dad's integrity that would blow people out of the water. He's just going to do the right thing. And if he said he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And so that, I give him that. One of my youth pastors was so cool. He was the coolest dude. And I grew up in a time where serving the Lord in youth groups weren't always cool. I mean, they're all up on social media now, and everybody jumping. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. When they weren't cool back in our day, right? And he was cool. And he showed me, it's like, no, you can serve the God, and it's cool. And it's awesome. I know it sounds small, but in junior high, that was a big deal. I had another youth pastor that loved the lost, loved lost people, thought about everything through lost people. And man, and because of that, it put something in me, put a seed of just lost, people lost. And so, that was just amazing. My father-in-law, who I worked for a little while as a youth pastor, has one of the most deep relationships with the Lord. Poppy. He has one of the most vibrant, just intimate relationships with the Lord. And just, he found his joy and his hope and his everything. And every message he ever preaches to this day goes back to spend time with Jesus, spend time with Jesus. And put that in me. And from a leadership standpoint, because I always found myself in leadership roles, just kind of found myself in it. And no one's ever taught me how to lead well, lead a church well, and a whole slew of things other than Steve Robinson, my pastor. We're not related, just same last name. And I was under him for about 20 years, 15 years as a youth pastor, and just learned, I mean, my goodness, if you're online and you do not follow Steve Robinson at Church of the King, you need to. He's one of the most brilliant pastoral leaders on the planet Earth. I'm serious. I've been in many rooms, and there haven't been too many rooms someone smarter than Steve Robinson. And so just being around that has just pulled me into things I would have never got it on my own. And so I'm grateful for him, and I honor him.
So good. Well, as we wrap, Pastor Jay, I'd love for you just to share maybe a word of encouragement with leaders listening. Maybe they're in a stage of growth or change. And just on that same topic today, anything that you'd love to encourage those who are listening today?
Can y'all give me a second on this one?
Absolutely.
Give me a second on this one here. Because there's so many things that can be said. But I'm asking the Lord to do for such a time as this.
Absolutely.
For someone that's out there. We often talk about, hey, when someone's struggling, when they're struggling, words of encouragement. And that's true. We've all been there, right? But some of my greatest testing and challenging has not been in the land of the valley of the shadow of death, although that's a real thing. It's learning to deal with so much favor and blessing and opportunity and resource. I'm a kid from Covington, Louisiana. Great family, great blue collar family. Never had much. My pastor, my church, lived in a $100,000 home. Great man, Pastor Randy Plesslaw. And he and so when I felt called to the ministry, that's what you're getting. That's what you're going. and to have so much of God's favor and blessing and hand on things that I don't deserve. And I just wanted to steward well. Some of the greatest testing you'll ever have is in the season of abundance, not just in the season of lack. Because in the season of abundance, you find out what's really in you. Because, see, when you don't have much, you don't have any options. You don't have a lot of options to do something else. But then all of a sudden, when you have a lot of resources and connections and all that, like, you find out what's really in you. Were you serving the people to get to a place that you can just hire people and you don't have to serve the people anymore because you don't really want to deal with the people? Do you now you have the opportunity to go stay at so-and-so's I don't know, lake house or or whatever. You follow? Or like,
Yes.
okay, the church got to a place and now there's options and opportunities and all that. And so now you just try to see which green room you can get in now. Was that the goal? I think I would just go back to just like, hey, just be faithful. Be faithful to the calling God gave you. Don't let this world distract you too much. Don't get the glitz and the glamour and the fame. Don't worry about all that. Just be faithful to the Lord. Just be faithful to what the Lord's told you to do. And if he decides to elevate you, cool. And if he doesn't, you didn't need it anyway, because that's not why you did it. And you just trust them. You just trust them with that. We live in such a celebrity culture world, that everybody can be this and that. And I would just encourage you, just be faithful to what God told you to do. And I pray that we all could say, let's just be people God can trust. And if we do that, he will maximize what he wants to do in us with our lives. And so it's probably the thing that's in my heart right now.
So good.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah. And it's been an honor and a privilege to walk alongside of you on this journey. Focus 412, our mission is to help churches grow. And when we say that, we don't just mean numbers. We mean in a healthy manner, using principles that no matter what your size is, you feel like you have an approach and a team and a structure and clarity for how you are going to lead in that season, in that size, at that scale. And this process that we've all been talking about is called the essentials. And if you're watching this and you really want a partner that can just help pull out of you what your culture and what your staff and what your systems need, we would be honored to help you in any way we can. And you can go to focus412.com and learn more about that. And we just love this. We love hearing the stories and seeing the journey and being able to just get behind you and support you in whatever it is God's calling to you next, and just help you find out what is inside of you and pull that potential out. So thank you, Pastor Jason.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Pastor
Thank
Jay.
y'all. Thank y'all. I'll just say from a pastor from Focus 412, there's a couple things that I think was key for us. One is y'all didn't come in and try to throw a system on us. And I actually had a couple staff people that were asking me, like, are they going to try to make us do this? I said, they ain't making us do nothing. It's like
we in charge.
They're coming alongside us. It's not like
right.
Focus 412 is telling us what to do and here's the mandate. It's like, no, this is who we are. This is how we want. And so you guys worked with us, our language and all that, and just helped. Hey, let me just throw some things at you. Here's some structures. Here's some things that I think might help you. And I was like, I like that. I don't think we'll do that. And you helped us architect our own process. So that was huge for me in that. And the other thing that was real key, I know we didn't mention, Christy, but I think it's important. Some pastors if you're going through the process of Focus 412 right now, think about being effective more than thinking about getting finished through it. So we got about halfway through and I said, hold on, we're going too fast. We need to slow down. We need to slow down this whole process. And what was supposed to take a year took us, 2.5 years? And so, yes, I know more money, I know more time, but this is what I know. I've been around church too long. Somebody comes in, hey, this is a great leadership model. Yeah, that's cool. And then within a month, we all go back to the way we've always been doing it. And so we just spent money and time to go back to the way we always been doing it. I said, we need to take our time, and this needs to get established in our staff. Let it get established that this is the way we think. This is how we do it. This is how we go. Because again, I want fruit that remains, and I want to last. And to this day, here we are. We're still running the plays that we've learned. And, we may have to adjust over time, especially as we go into campuses and stuff like that. But I think that was really helpful to us. And so I want to thank you guys for coming alongside of us as well and being so helpful in all that.